Welcome to Recovery Radio by Landmark Recovery with your host, Zach Crouch. In this program, we'll discuss the root causes and treatments of alcohol and substance addiction, speak with experts in related fields, and help navigate the road to recovery. Now, here's the host of Recovery Radio, Zach Crouch.
In this episode, we'll be talking about mental health and how important it is that we open up an open and honest conversation to break the harmful stigma surrounding it. We have Sonja Wasden joining us to talk about her own mental health journey. Sonja is a mental health advocate and co-author of her daughter Rachel's Sidaway of An Impossible Life, the inspiring true story of a woman's struggle from within. Sonja, welcome to the show. And I want to make sure that I'm pronouncing your right. Is it Sonja or Sonja? It's
Sonja.
Thank you. So we're so grateful to have you on with us as a guest today. And, this is just an amazing story, I think, because you write really about your own journey, or at least your daughter, I think, was the author, right, of your story.
Yes, she was.
So, as I mentioned in the intro here, why is it so important to you that we have an open conversation about mental health?
Well, there's still a lot of stigma and judgment around mental health. I hid my mental illness for over 20 years because of that. And I appeared to be living the ideal life. I was married to the hospital CEO, living in a beautiful home, attending required charity events, 3 beautiful, healthy children, yet my life was falling apart. I could barely get out of bed and shower. And I held up this appearance that everything was fine. But in my book, An Impossible Life, I shattered that ideal appearance and I shared everything.
I think that that's a battle that even as professionals we face on a daily basis, this idea of stigma. And it's such a problem with addiction and mental health in our country. And I'm wondering, because you've written a book, you've done speaking engagements. How can professionals, even like me, and I would say even lay people, sort of bust through the shame and the guilt and the negativity of this stigma?
Well, it's so interesting because, we live in a day and age now where we have successfully removed many stigmas around race, gender, sexual orientation, and physical disabilities. But around mental illness, we have not done such a great job still. Just yesterday was the Academy Awards, and the Joker, Joaquin Phoenix, won Best Actor for his portrayal of Arthur Fleck, who is mentally ill, going on a killing spree. And, while I don't want to, he did an amazing job in his performance.
Yeah, I haven't seen the movie, but yeah.
But the question that I have is, we're encouraged to come out now and speak about our mental health, but yet no one wants to belong to a group that is labeled crazy or deemed violent or, when there was the shootings in Ohio in September, our president came out and said, it was mental illness and hatred, not the guns. And the fact is that the mentally ill is no more apt to be violent than anyone else. And they have those studies proving that. But yet we seem to want to get on the bandwagon of there's a mass shooting, it's mental illness. And that's not even statistically true. But yet there's stigma that we're violent or, you're crazy or these type of things. And nobody wants to come out and say, oh, I belong to that group. Right? We don't want that. And so I think that's why a lot of times people hide and stay quiet about their mental health.
Well, you bring up a good point, because I think at the crux of what you're describing there is internally with someone who has a mental illness, right? That there is something inherently wrong with them, right? And with that sort of umbrella comes a huge barrier, and I would label it as shame, which kind of speaks to your point about how you carried around this you had this mental illness for 20 years, and how hard that must have been for you to just simply say, I need help. Because on the outside, everything looked great. You said your husband's the CEO of a hospital. You had lots of resources. But was even something like that, having the good life, as I would put it, everything looks good, make it even more difficult?
Yeah, it wasn't until December of 2015, after I swallowed over 200 pills, the paramedics rushed me to the hospital where my husband was CEO and saved my life. It was my attempted suicide that kind of forced me to come out of hiding. And one of the big motivators for me was the leading psychiatrist there told my husband to never bring me back to that hospital again, to take me somewhere where people didn't know us.
Wow.
And, it's even the mental people in the mental health field realize there's still stigma and they try to hide us and keep us secret. And I decided I was done hiding. I was done. And that's where I talked to my daughter, who's a brilliant writer. And we wrote my struggle with mental illness and my dad's suicide. He did die from suicide. And what is that like to live with a mental illness? And what does that look like from a mother, wife, and what that does to a family, and how I also overcame it and got the treatment that I needed. So many people with mental health and those who love them feel helpless and hopeless.
Right.
And there is hope. Like, I have a beautiful life now. I'm a mental health advocate. I'm out of bed. I'm traveling to all 50 states.
Sure.
I'm on local news stations. I'm being interviewed. And my marriage is intact at 27 years now. And I have great relationships with my kids. So
Awesome.
It's possible.
I'm just going to throw this out there because you bring up, as you were talking, I was thinking about this. So when you went and got help and that person said, don't come back here, you need to go to a place where nobody knows who you are, right? Is there something that's sort of tricky, though, about the way that our healthcare system is structured? Because HIPAA and a lot of these different, I'm not saying do away with HIPAA, don't get me wrong, but HIPAA in and of itself can kind of be a hindrance sometimes, it seems like, because you don't want people to find out. You want to remain almost too anonymous, right, to receive help. And HIPAA is probably not the right way to put it, but I guess I think we all,
but I think we all have a right to our privacy of our medical
sure.
conditions. But where I think he crossed the line is, had I suffered a heart attack, would he tell my husband to never bring me back to that hospital again?
Right.
See, there's a different standard. And my point is, look, mental illness is just like a physical illness, and there shouldn't be judgment, there shouldn't be shame, and it shouldn't be treated different. I can't imagine that, a CEO's wife has a heart attack, and then the heart doctor says, don't ever bring her back here again. Take her somewhere where people don't know you.
Right.
I can't imagine that happening.
Absolutely. Just going to bear with me here while my wife comes through here, and we're going to edit this out. So, question for you, Sonja. So, one of the things that came up for me as I was reading through your story and looking through your website, I think that so many people in your position would have turned out a lot different, right? What do you attribute to growing forward, or rather into the woman, the mom, the person that you are today? What would you say? Are there several things that you would say have led you to this point, or maybe one thing?
Yeah, I think when you have a physical illness, getting the appropriate care and doctors is the first step. After my attempted suicide, I got into dialectical behavior therapy. It's scientifically based therapy. It changed my life. And it wasn't just medicine. It was medicine and therapy that got me onto the road of getting skills to manage this illness, which lots of people have illnesses that they have to deal with, and pain. I still have the illness. I still have pain every day. It's not that my illness has changed. It's my ability to handle it. And also coming forward and talking about it and being honest about it, and not being shame, feeling like, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me. Me realizing, no, this is an illness just like anybody else. And I'm Sonja. I'm a person outside of my illness. And this is just something I have to live with and manage. And I don't need to feel sorry for myself. There's a lot of people who have illnesses that they're living with, and I can still have a beautiful life. And I think that that's where a lot of people get caught up in feeling like there's something wrong with them when they have a mental illness. Oh, there's something wrong with me. And it's saying, no, if, you're having depression, which depression is the number one worldwide disability in the world, is depression, that illness.
It's amazing.
And if you're having depression, it's an illness. It's not you, it's an illness. And you need to treat it, and you need to recognize, okay, I'm having symptoms of depression. This isn't me. It will get better. I can get through this. Instead of, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me?
Right. Well, yeah. And as you were mentioning all those things, I was thinking more about the context, the context of the culture that we live in, right? Because so much of the messages that we experience growing up are, you need to learn to be independent. You need to learn to pull yourself up. You need to, forge your own path and really work hard, right? And that's a message that starts early on in our cultural upbringing, in schools, family, whatever. Okay. And I think behind that, though, especially as it applies to mental illness, is this idea of, with something like this, I shouldn't ask for too much help, but would you ask for too much help if you had cancer or heart disease or something like that? Hell yeah, you would. Absolutely, you would. Right. So why don't we do the same thing with mental illness? Right. So
and people need to recognize, just like if, my sister has battled cancer, that she isn't able to do as much as she was before. So if you're battling depression and you're having a hard time getting as much done, you don't feel bad about it. You go, you know what? I'm battling an illness right now.
Right.
My sister doesn't say, oh my gosh, I'm battling cancer and I can't get all this done, so now I'm going to feel guilt that I can't get this all done. She realizes I'm battling cancer. And so when you're battling a mental health illness, it is like a physical illness. You probably are not going to be able to get as much done as you were before, and you need to take care of the illness.
So as you started this course of DBT combined with, whether it's pharmacological treatment or medical treatment, whatever you were doing to help battle your own mental illness, when did you start to feel some hope that this was really starting to get better?
I feel like probably 3-4 months in, I started to use a lot of the skills and started to see, oh my gosh, there's hope here. And, patience. But the same thing with other illnesses, patience with medication. And I would tell people, if you see a psychiatrist that you don't feel is listening to you about how the medicine is making you feel, go to a different psychiatrist.
Absolutely.
You don't have to just go to that one. And you need to realize there's side effects to every medicine, and you have to figure out, what are you willing, or what can you tolerate and live with? And if not, then try a different medicine or a therapist. Just because you go see the first therapist, if it's not working, go try another one and another one and another one.
Right.
And realize there's patience and perseverance, and you've got to just keep trying to find what is going to be the right combination for you.
And I think that the heart of what you're saying too is, even though you might not feel worth it, going for a second opinion or a third or a fourth opinion, hearing it from people like you who have lived through this and are continuing to live through it, because, mental illness has its kind of ebbs and peaks. It can come and it can go, and you learn different skills to deal with it. But really, you are worth it. You are worth seeking out other opinions from different people if it isn't working for you. So
yes. And yes, you have to show yourself self-love and have confidence that you can handle it. If I can do it, anyone can do it. And that they can get through it. They can do it. And a lot of it is patience, but also realizing, okay, if I see someone battling cancer, they're trying medicine, they're trying therapies, they're battling it out. And a lot of times, people with mental illness, you're fighting like hell for your life, just like someone with cancer. And so it's like, yes, fight for yourself, fight for your life.
So your day to day, your week, your month probably looked dramatically different than it did, prior to, starting this course of treatment that you did, that that you're probably still engaging with. What does your day-to-day look like now? What do you mentioned doing speaking engagements, things like that, but, beyond being on camera or, on the microphone, walk us through what a typical day looks like for you.
I wake up, I exercise, I have moments of joy where, yes, I still have moments of depression or anxiety or pain, but I have lots of moments that are joyful and great. And I can end my day saying I had a great day instead of saying, oh my gosh, this day was horrible. I end my day saying this was a really good day. And also just having the skills to manage through the emotions and dealing with that. I emotionally ate until I weighed almost 300 pounds. Okay. Now I've lost over 100 pounds and I still enjoy eating, but I'm not emotional eating. And so my life is very different. I used to stay in bed all day. I'm not staying in my bed at all anymore, at all. I used to not shower but twice a month. Now I shower every other day or every day.
Yeah.
I spent over $150,000 in 3 months on credit cards. Well, now I have my spending under control and it's managed and I'm not doing manic behavior. And so my life is completely different, and I feel like a lot of my trials that I share in my book are relatable. Just mine were more in extreme manner. But when you see that I was able to overcome it and how I overcome it, I feel like a lot of people have responded, not just with mental illness, but just with life, that they have difficulties. And they said, my gosh, Sonja, if you can handle your trials, I can handle mine. So there's a lot of hope there.
Absolutely.
That, my life is completely different. I'm 140 pounds lighter than I used to be.
Yeah.
So, my life is different. I'm not going on spending sprees. I'm not in bed all day, not changing my clothes. My marriage was hanging on by a thread where I have a very healthy marriage today. So yes, my life is very different.
It's fantastic. So you mentioned the term grit as one of the pieces that you attribute to living through these different challenges in life. Tell us more about what that means to you. What does the word grit mean to you?
I feel like everybody in life is going to go through things, and every person needs to have grit. That it is going to be difficult. Winston Churchill said, when you're going through hell, keep on walking.
Yep.
And it's like, you got to walk through the hell sometimes to get out to the other side. And being there thinking, oh, this just has to go away, or telling yourself, I can't do it. You've got to say, I can do this. I am strong enough. And that's having the grit to, if it's medicine that you're saying, I've got to start taking medicine to get my mental health better, and the medicine's not working, or you're having side effects and you have to go to your doctor and say, I can't live with these side effects are too much. And having the grit and patience to go through the medicine, that's hell. I've been through that.
Right.
Or going through therapy and learning new skills and saying, I don't know how to do these, and you're trying. And it's, kind of like learning how to ride a bike. You pedal and then you fall off, and then you pedal and then you fall off until you
get back up,
it.
Get some scrapes on your knee, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's having grit. You fall down, and it's not, I didn't just arrive here one day, losing over 100 pounds, or my marriage,
right,
thriving now, or me not staying in bed. Yes, I have many days where I'm like, oh, getting out of bed is hard.
Right.
But learning the skills and grit to get through that hell to the other side of, okay, I'm being successful now.
Right.
Yeah.
What I see in our facility at Landmark Recovery is an approach that you brought up DBT. So we use an evidence-based group modality that focuses upon treating people's trauma, and then also focuses upon treating the underlying comorbidity, mood disorders, but also the primary addiction that's present. And what we're seeing in our facility, at least, is that it gives people space. It gives them the ability to work on stuff that they might not have ever looked at before, right? But in order to do that, we need people in our facility who are professional, but also probably are doing their own work and create that safe space for them to do the work that's necessary. So, their addiction shows up, but underneath that is, 90 to 95% of the people who come in have had some sort of trauma go on in their lives, right? Yeah. So I don't know if you've had to take a look at any of that stuff, but if you have you had to take a look at trauma in your life, and what was that like if you did?
Yes. Looking at the trauma in your life I would say there's a lot of fear with that.
Sure.
And you have to face the trauma and the fear and all those emotions with it. And yeah, I've done EMDR for some of my trauma, and still you have to face it. And I think one thing that people need to also realize is that they need to realize that, you know what, you can't bring the past with you into your present. You've got to be in the moment now, and where am I going from here? And the past is done and over. And yes, I have a lot of pain in my past, but I don't need to carry that pain in my moment right now. You need to let it go, and you need to realize also you were doing the best you knew how at that moment. You can always, I'm doing the best I know how today. Doesn't mean I can't improve. Doesn't mean I can't do better tomorrow, but I'm doing the best I know how today.
Right.
And that's one thing when I did go through therapy and learning skills or learning to overcome things, it takes time.
Sure.
You're not going to just immediately.
You're creating new at a brain space. You're creating new neural pathways in your brain that you probably have not ever used before.
Exactly. And that takes time, and you need to give yourself, like what you said, safe space to say, you know what, I'm going to attempt to do these new brain pathways. I'm going to attempt to do these new behaviors. And I'm going to allow myself the space to attempt them and try them and fail and pick myself up and try again and try again. Like I literally, if someone would have told me 6 years ago, Sonja, you're going to shower every day to every other day, I would have said, no way. That's too hard.
It's not going to happen, right?
I just couldn't do it. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't have believed you.
Right.
I was like, that's just, showering is just too much work. Like, I cannot, And, or to say, Sonja, you're going to lose over 100 pounds. No, that's just too much work. But what you find a little bit, one step, 1,000-mile journey begins with one step. So you take one step and one step and one small step. You don't need to, do the whole journey in one day. It's just one small step. That's all you got to focus on every day.
You can't eat a whale. You bit by bit, right? You can't eat a whale one bite. So.
Yeah, what I would say is that there's hope, though. If I can do it, other people can do it. But they've got to show themselves compassion, and you have to allow yourself to fail over and over. And that's the grit I talk about, is the failing over and over and picking yourself up.
So I want to ask you a question. What recommendations then do you have for people who just really aren't sure where to start? What do you say to those folks?
If they don't know where to start, I would say start talking to your loved ones, to your friends about what you're feeling, what you're experiencing. So if you feel like I don't even have the energy to get help, I would take the help, but I don't even know how to get the help. Ask someone, say, you know what, I need help, but I don't have the energy. I don't have the ability where I am right now to research out and get me the help. Ask your family, ask your friends, say, can you help me get the help?
Sure.
Help people around you who love you. That, I didn't find DBT by myself. My friend found it. Mm-hmm. So, the medication I'm on today was a niece who was on that and said, this works for me. It hasn't been the doctors that found my medicine or found my therapy. It has been the friends and family around me. And, and I would tell the friends and family, don't be their therapist. Don't try to solve all their problems. Love them. Try to help them find professionals that can help them.
Yeah.
But, I would say start where you are today. Make one phone call to a friend and say, or a family member, say, can you help me reach out to a doctor? Try that one doctor visit. If that doesn't work, try a different doctor. one therapy, one medicine, just
Yeah.
one thing at a time.
Yep. So you talk about, some of these people that have helped you along the way. I think of people who are coming out of our treatment program, and even families too that are involved that gain support, that start recovery support groups or become part of a recovery support group of their own, whether that's 12 steps, smart recovery, refuge recovery, whatever it might be. Who are your supporters today? Obviously you mentioned your family, but outside of close relatives and extended family, who else are supporters of your journey?
Well, today I am dialectical behavior therapy. I'm in that program, and I have an assigned therapist to me. I go to class once a week with a bunch of people who are there. So I would say they're my support. My, DBT therapist is my support. My psychiatrist is my support.
Yep.
I have church members that are my support. I would say me being on the road and talking to people and just sharing, they share their stories with me, or even tips of, oh my gosh, somebody said to me, this book they read, The Untethered Soul, or Joe Dispenza, and I've been listening to some Joe Dispenza. I'm like, oh, this is great stuff on, some of his interviews he's done on podcasts, or his book, Breaking the Habit of Being You, and so, I learn things from people all over. Yeah.
Love it. You mentioned church, right? And one of the things that I see, at least, of people coming through our doors is that they have a huge struggle with, whether it's organized religion or just the whole God question in general. Has that ever been a challenge for you in your own recovery?
Absolutely. I would say I haven't talked to one person that hasn't struggled in mental health or recovery that hasn't had some God issues. And yes, I have had my God issues. And that is something that is also a journey that, I have felt like, how would God let me suffer this much? Like, I have suffered to the point where it just takes my breath. Like, if someone would have told my 20-year-old self would have been like, that's not possible. Right. And yet, I'm like, really, God? Or, my father died from suicide, and I thought I made a pact with God. Don't ever let me. I struggled with suicidal urges and feelings for over 24 years, and I was like, don't ever let me take my life. Don't let me ever attempt. You'll take me out. You'll take me from this earth before I would do that to my family. And after my attempted suicide, I realized, oh my gosh, God totally allowed that to happen. And so, there have been things along the way that you just go, I believe God also has helped me in my recovery. I believe God has been there for me, but there's complicated questions that I don't think I have all the answers. And I don't think until the next life, a lot of us will have the answers, and a lot of us will probably, whatever they believe, if they believe there's a higher being, they may have a conversation with that higher being going, look,
what was this all about? Right.
I don't think anyone has all the answers, but I choose to believe in a loving higher being of spirituality because it helps me live a healthier life.
Absolutely.
And so do I have my questions? Yes. Have I been shocked by the amount of suffering in my life? Other people? Yes. But I do know that when I have a spiritual love, or the way that I pray, which may be different than someone else, that it does help me. And so I figure if it's helping me in life, I'm going to allow that in my life. Absolutely. But do I have all the answers? No.
No, none of us do. And I think that, you brought up a very good point of, in the midst of all the suffering that goes on, you're still connected to your higher power, whatever, you choose to call it. And the flip side of suffering often is joy, right? Because in order to experience the highs, you have to experience the lows sometimes. So you've written a book, you're doing this with your daughter, you're speaking, across the nation. What other gifts have you experienced as a result of I would say, being transparent about who you are and also your story?
I would say the biggest gift, well, two gifts. One has been doing it with my daughter because she found my suicide note at 16, and she was very angry and thought I was selfish. And what she came to realize is I didn't want to leave my family. I didn't want to leave my children. I wanted to leave the pain. And so she got to have a greater insight into my pain and suffering and what that looked like. I would say the greatest thing that this journey has been is to see how my story, my book, An Impossible Life, has helped people. Where I've had an Amazon review from a psychiatric nurse said she'll never look at her patients the same way after reading my book.
Right.
Or a sister that had a woman who had a sister that was bipolar that says, I understand her after reading your book in a way I never understood before.
Right.
Or a person saying, oh my gosh, after reading your book, I will never be the same. I am changed. And so, or being stopped at the grocery store or at the airport, a woman said, I just saw you on the news. I don't understand how anyone would ever want to kill themselves. And we had a conversation about suicide, where suicide is usually a conversation killer. Yeah. And it's like, these are the conversations we need to be having.
Yeah, let me tell you about my story about wanting to kill myself. Excuse me?
But a stranger felt she could approach me because she saw me on the news that morning. And I got to have a conversation with her and her to better understand what it is like to have suicidal feelings and urges. She doesn't understand it, and I'm so glad she doesn't. That she doesn't have that in her life. But maybe she can have more compassion and understanding for those of us who do.
I think that the one thing that I was taking away, I read some of the reviews, was that, people feel that when they've read your book, they've made comments that they feel like you opened a new avenue for them, right? That wasn't maybe accessible before. And I appreciate the feedback that you shared, especially with that person who was in the healthcare system that said that they won't look at patients the same way, because I think that that's often what it takes. It takes being down in the stuff, with people to really, go to those depths with folks and not be completely frightened that, oh my God, this is crazy. I can't take this. I need to write them a script or something, just I need to reschedule or whatever it might be. But I think that people who go down to those depths are really the people that make the biggest difference in our field.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's going to take all of us, the people in the field speaking up, those studying it, all of us working together. And I have great hope for, 1 in 5 people will experience a mental health disorder at some time in their life. And I just feel like I have great hope for the future of my grandchildren, my children, that there's going to be more medicine, more therapy, more accepted, more talked about, more help. I have great optimism that this is definitely, there's alarming statistics since the 2000, suicide is up 30%. These are things we need to be talking about. We need to talk about it, and if someone is struggling, they need to say, I am having urges to take my life. And they need to realize that is an illness. That is not you. That is your brain. That is an illness, and you need to get treated.
Well, the other piece too I was going to mention, Sonja, is that at least among teenagers, suicide is a rising concern. Because
it's the number 2 killer of teenagers. Yeah,
it's a huge issue, and that it's not just one of these things where people are trying to get attention or something like that. No, these people are in pain. They need help.
Yeah. Yes. And so hopefully we can all join together and get each other help and support each other and get people living a life that is worth living and that they can live with these things.
So beyond being on this podcast and also being on TV, you and your daughter are sharing your life story to help others on their own mental health journeys. Can you speak a little bit more to how else are you all doing that?
We are in May, we are going to New Hampshire. Concord is featuring our book for that week. And we've been invited to speak, and we'll be doing speaking, and the governor will be there. and will be participating in their Mental Health Awareness Week. So we're doing articles for magazines, and so we're just doing everything we can. Like, I'm dedicating my life to mental health advocacy. And so just lots of doors are opening up, and we are doing all that we can do, even on this podcast, speaking with you, newspaper articles, news interviews, going back to the States for them having a mental health awareness week and us speaking and doing those things. Yes.
Awesome. So I just want to say it's been a real pleasure to have you on today, and thank you for taking the time to come on the show today. I really do appreciate that.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for all that you guys do in your work too. It takes all of us.
Absolutely. You can find out more information also about Sonja and her book, An Impossible Life, online at animpossiblelife.com. And again, I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to Recovery Radio. New content for this program is available every Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern Time and 9 a.m. Pacific Time, with all episodes available on demand on the Voice America Health and Wellness channel and through our content partners, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Google Play podcasts. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review so we can continue to create quality content to help save 1 million lives in the next 100 years. You don't need to struggle through addiction alone. Live the life you dreamed on the road to recovery.